Man, it is exciting. I love thunderstorms, and
dude, you didn't get thunder in California, right?
no, never. I hardly ever even saw lightning. Now I'm making up for it because last night it was like a strobe light out there.
Yeah.
I mean, thunder, lightning, rain, wind, 60-mile-per-hour wind. Actually, my neighbor lost a branch next door. Didn't have any real damage, but yeah, there was a couple of times where. Yeah, I thought maybe a tornado was happening out there. It was wild. It was
You
wild.
guys ever get tornadoes out there?
No, I don't think so.
I
I've
don't
never
think
even
so.
heard of it. But
Yeah.
I thought, I mean, last night I heard what sounded like the roaring freight train out there and everything. And man, it was kind of terrifying, but
I
the
know it's
house
kind
I
of
live in is like a bunker here. So no worries there. This house
mhm.
is not going anywhere, it seems like. And anyway,
I
I
think
like
that's
it.
pretty
It's
cool.
pretty cool. I
Yeah,
think so
awesome.
too.
Let's get rolling. I don't know about you. We did not compare notes this week, but I got a lot of
Not at
shares.
all.
Not a, I got a lot of shares, a lot of stuff to go over. And you?
Yeah, I didn't have as much, but I have a
Okay.
lot on my mind here as
Okay.
we look at what's
Good.
happened between last week and this week and the weeks previous to that. I mean,
It's
the
a
whole
crazy
world is
time.
changing right now. Yeah, everything's in flux right now. This is a historic moment that we're
It
living
is.
through, right? And
It
people are going to
is.
be talking about right now for years to come.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So to start off our upfront segment, I want to talk about artificial sweeteners. And you got to steer clear of them, folks. If you think you're doing better than sugar, we got a little bit to unpack. Just take a few minutes, but this is really important information. Okay, well, we know that refined sugar, a far cry from sugarcane, the sugarcane plant it originates from, is harmful to our health when consumed in excess. Americans average a whopping 19.5 teaspoons of sugar a day, by some estimates, more than 2 to 3 times the top amount recommended by the American Heart Association. But it's not just refined sugar that's a problem. You want to also steer clear of artificial sweeteners too. Research has linked all but stevia, simply because there's not enough research on it yet, but it'll be included soon. But research has linked all of these to obesity and diabetes, the very thing we're trying to prevent and get away from. Research shows when animals were fed too common artificial sweeteners, the sweeteners changed how the animals process fat and get energy, and also harm the cells that line blood vessels in just 3 weeks. I mean,
Oh, wow.
dude, I'm going to read this part again. Researchers showed that when animals fed too common artificial sweeteners, the sweeteners changed how the animals process fat and energy. It's changing your biology in just 3 weeks. So what's a sweet-loving person to do? Scour food labels for added sugar. Make your own sauces and dressings whenever you can. The packaged versions, I mean, sauces and dressings, you may think, oh, it may look, they put a leaf or something on the label. Boy, read that stuff. I mean, it's terrible. When Lisa and I talk about it all the time. Simple spaghetti sauces or salsa, you don't really taste the sugar. And if you can taste the sugar, it takes away from the flavor. Like the best salsas and sauces don't have any added sugar, and they're hard to find. You got to read the labels. There's no reason for. I love salsa. I eat it all the time. I don't see any reason why to put sugar in it. Okay, so
Yeah.
a quick tip here. To transition from diet, Lisa just brought this up the other day before I read this. To transition from diet or regular soda, add a few splashes of juice to seltzer water. Lisa bought these two ingredients because we're having a brunch with a bunch of family over next Sunday after this Sunday. And that's one drink we're offering is a seltzer water with a good fresh juice, no sugar added, and then put a little vodka in there. You got yourself one hell of a drink.
Yeah.
And then when eating something sweet like chocolate, think quality over quantity and savor that square of dark chocolate. So Lisa does. I buy her the 72% cacao chocolate. And it's also a great time of the year to enjoy nature's desserts. Whole in-season peaches. Oh, God, I love good fresh
Oh
peaches.
yes, same here. They are awesome.
Nectarines, berries, pears. Pears, my favorite fruit, I would say. Peaches are
Hmm.
right there, though. Pears, they
Got
come
to
in
be
a
a
lot
good
of.
peach though. You
I
get a
know,
bad
man.
peach or just one of those that doesn't have any flavor. It's like
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
what a
disappointing.
waste of space,
Yeah,
right?
it's like getting bad pizza. Why bother? I mean,
Yeah, right.
don't
You just
forget
get
to
the
wash it.
calories, right?
Yeah, don't
Yeah.
forget to wash it first. Now,
Oh, that's big.
yeah, for sure. I did some quick research because I've been so bothered by processed sugar, and it's what the FDA allows to happen to our food and the deception that goes into it. Because processed sugar is horrible. We all know of high fructose corn syrup, but I was talking to chat and I told it, hey, ever since I saw this Dr. Mark Hyman's documentary, Fed Up, um, he enlightened us to there's about 98 different names for processed sugar.
No kidding.
And so I
So
said, how about giving us a list? And it said, yes, the documentary highlights the many names that of processed sugar that are ingredients labels, why the exact number of names may vary. It's true that there are numerous ways processed sugar can be listed. Some of these include, I'm not going to read them all, but I'm going to point out some things that you need to be on the look for. Everyone knows high fructose corn syrup. Always avoid that. It's in almost most breads. And boy, I read the labels of all bread. Bread is another thing. You really don't need sugar in it. On occasion, I can
right,
find some bread without sugar. It's better, but they want to keep this highly addictive product in there. All right,
right.
so corn sugar, uh, corn sugar, glucose. Anytime you hear anything that sounds like glucose, like fructose, like sucrose,
Like
avoid those.
glucosamine. Yeah, yeah,
Yes, yes. There are
yeah.
dextrose, maltodextrin, agave nectar. Doesn't that sound natural and
It's
awesome?
yeah, isn't
How
it?
deceptive is that? Maple syrup. This is not natural maple syrup. This is the common artificially created maple syrup, which is made
Huh.
of crap. Got to watch that. Molasses, honey. Natural honey is very good, but apparently they're using this in nefarious ways.
Huh.
Invert sugar. I have
Never
never
heard of
heard of
it.
that. That
Yeah.
sounds
It
diabolical.
sounds dangerous. Yeah.
It does, man.
Don't do it.
Rice syrup. Oh, that sounds really good. Raw sugar. Listen to that one. Raw sugar.
Yeah,
Well,
that can't
that
be
sounds
bad.
right.
Yeah,
Well,
it's raw.
here's the worst right down here. Cane sugar. Dude, that's
Okay.
just inverting the word sugar cane. That should
Oh,
be so
right.
highly illegal.
I'm
Cane
telling
juice.
you, right?
This is what
What
pisses me off
deception.
about the
Yeah.
FDA.
It's all deception.
It is glucose,
It's like they lead you
fructose.
down into this trap. Even
Yeah,
lactose is sugar.
yeah, exactly. So it's also deceptive. And I just say this, we can get off and onto other things now, but I want us all to become aware of how corrupt our food industry is with our FDA
Oh,
and
God.
obviously along with the pharmaceutical industry. They're all in cahoots together. And that's why we are battling obesity at epidemic rates today. We just need
Holy cow,
awareness.
man. That is just crazy. I saw a picture over the last week of the beach. Everyone's seen this.
Right.
It's a
Yes.
beach picture, 1970, and the same beach this year. And it's like the 1970 people are
What
all
happened?
fit and skinny, and the ones for this year are huge. But did something happen?
Yeah, you blanked out for a minute and I was clicking around. I thought I paused you. But you
Oh,
just you had a little glitch there.
I'm noticing our feed isn't all that speedy today. Maybe it has something to do with that storm that came
Oh,
through
it
last
definitely
night.
does.
Yeah.
Dude, it definitely does. One of our worst podcasts was during a storm. We're worried, was it on your end? It's a storm. It'll affect us.
And you know what? I got a letter that CenturyLink, that my Wi-Fi provider, is not going to be providing Wi-Fi any longer within 30 days. So I
You
got to
gotta
find
find it.
another provider, and I hope there is another provider out here. That'd be
Well,
pretty tough.
I would recommend that perhaps go on Nextdoor, do two things. I recently had to do this. One, go on Nextdoor and
Mm.
see what people are recommending.
Oh, that's
And
not a
yeah,
bad idea.
Oh, there
I
was a
got off. Remember, we were on Next Door and we were talking. I got off of that a long time ago because
same. I got
those
kicked
people
off a
were
long time
bringing
ago.
me down,
They
right?
keep trying to suck me back in.
They
But when
do.
they
I
kicked
keep
me
getting stuff
off,
right. Yeah.
my life got a lot better.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, but these people would probably know what the best internet provider or Wi-Fi provider is.
Yes, no, for sure. The other thing is do a Google search and see what the reviews are, read the reviews. When you do a Google search on that, you'll come up with 5 different things like Yelp and related things like that. And you can check the ratings, read the reviews, and see what's up from there. I've been through all of that. That's definitely the way to go, though.
I've been
Don't
really
go with just
disappointed
the
with.
cheapest.
Yeah, I've been. It seems like everybody has CenturyLink here. It's terrible. This is the worst Wi-Fi experience I've ever had. Actually, it's like what
Okay.
this thing. It is designed to make you look silly, I think.
It's
But
because they don't
lots of
have
things
enough
are like that.
competition. They don't have enough. It's a near
Competition
monopoly.
is it, right? Yeah,
Hmm.
this is it. Monopolies are bringing this whole country down right now. It's the service
Yeah.
industry is terrible. It's
Yeah.
really crazy. Hey, I got a question for you, Barry.
Yep.
Were you impacted by the whole crowd strike thing that
Not that I
happened
know
last
of.
Friday? No, not.
No.
I
Not that I know of.
personally okay, so I was big time. So hospitals were completely impacted by this whole thing.
And please
Uh
briefly explain what
yeah,
cloud strike is.
it's CrowdStrike, and CrowdStrike is a company that is a cybersecurity protection company, and they have all kinds of programs to prevent some type of a breach from happening, or if it is happening, it's going to alert you. They're a very, very so-called reputable company. And I say so-called because there's some things that are kind of crazy about this company that we have in its past. But on Friday, they had an update to their current platform. I can't remember what. Oh, it's called Falcon. An update to Falcon. Falcon apparently is a software program used by probably 90% of companies that are out there. They definitely have a monopoly
Mm,
on the business,
mm.
and they put out their update to Microsoft, their Microsoft program, and when they did it, everybody's computer started to turn into the blue screen of death. And you know what that is.
Yeah.
And so this happened, this shut down business all around the world. It was worldwide. It happened instantly. It brought down airlines. It brought down hospitals. It brought down all kinds of different programs. But they say it only affected Microsoft. And it's like, well, it only affected the places that are impacted by oxygen.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, it's like everything went down. So I happen to be, this happened on Friday, and I had some big meetings in San Diego this week, and I had a whole team of people coming down to San Diego on Monday. Well, all of our flights got all crazy. Some
Wow.
people didn't make it. I had a big, it was a health innovation summit that I was going to in San Diego, and even the host didn't make it down there
Wow.
to the thing because Delta Airlines actually got hit the hardest, and it just introduced pandemonium to everything. Hospitals, I work in the hospital industry. Everybody was heads down on Friday working on this and trying to get this back together. They're saying that the losses across the world are in the multiple billions of dollars of losses. I actually ended up getting stranded in San Diego for a day as a result. So I ended up spending an extra day. Not the worst place to be stranded,
Oh, to
I'll
say the
tell you.
least. Yeah.
Oh, and gosh, the weather there.
I know. That's what today
I
is just
was,
like San Diego weather.
oh
Yeah.
my gosh, it was so
It's so
nice. It
pretty.
was like,
Yeah.
this is why people live in San Diego. It
Hmm.
was like 72 degrees
Yeah.
and
It's always
sunny
72.
with
Yeah.
a slight breeze.
Yeah.
I was standing outside. No burning. I'm not burning. I'm not burning.
Right.
This is really nice. So it
Yeah.
felt really good. When I got back home, oh, it was so crazy, Barry. We had a military thing happen on my plane. Apparently, a Marine had died in a motorcycle accident. So they transferred his body on our plane, and they had a whole military procession bring the casket to the plane. And then when we got to the other side in Phoenix, there was a whole entourage of police, and the Marines were there all lined up in their
Wow.
dress colors and everything, and making this big production. It was really something. And we didn't know what was going on when we got on the plane. There was these guys, these Marines in their dress colors and everything. Oh, Barry, they looked so good. I mean, like, I was proud when I
Oh yeah.
saw those guys,
Hmm.
and that just the how they stood, and just their uniforms, and it just made you proud, and I said
Really.
something to them. One of
Mhm.
them said something back to me. I didn't know what was going on, but when one of them traveled with us, the rest of them stayed behind. And when we got to the other side, they wouldn't let us off the plane. They said there was a very important person that needed to get off, but they didn't tell us anything. And you know how they make you close the windows on the planes these days
Mhm.
to keep the plane cool?
Mhm.
Well, I opened up mine just to look out to see where we were. And man, there was all these military people out looking really good and everything. And somebody said, "Oh, they're transferring a Marine who a deceased Marine." Several people saw it. They all opened up the windows. People started crying.
Wow.
We found out later that this person was in a motorcycle accident. But gosh, even when I got off the jetway and out into the airport, there were all these people looking through the window and everything. Very somber moment, but also a moment of national pride amongst everybody. I mean, there was this
Nice.
feeling of being an American, and
Mhm.
all of us being the same as far as,
Mhm.
I don't know. It, Barry, it's something I've been talking about. I started talking about last week, where I was saying I think what you've been saying, uh, and I guess I've been saying it
2024
too, that
being a
there's a
turnaround.
change. Yeah, that there's
Mhm.
this change happening, and I'm starting to see it. I'm starting to feel it, and I'm hoping it's not my imagination,
I
that
hope.
people are starting to. I almost feel like getting choked up here. Like, people are starting to realize the pride of being an American, and
I
how
think,
great that is, and what a
and
privilege that is.
the disappointment of the facade that's been the veil that's been lifted on us. You have just mentioned many things that are going to permeate throughout the show. One's a motorcycle accident at the end. Anxious to get your take on that. It's one of these who's at fault, and you would be the one to consult from my circle. The other DEI, you made me think of that when we talk about the Marines and the pride there, and we better not get any more DEI. We better take any DEI out of our Marine Corps and all the other institutions as soon as possible. The other thing is Microsoft. Going to talk about that here as it relates to DEI just now. Before we do, I want to ask you, getting back to CloudStrike for a moment, this kind of sounds like a technology version of COVID that struck us. Is there a known cause and solution? And tell us a bit about that, please.
Well, the cause, they're saying, the CEO of CrowdStrike came on Friday,
Did you
was
say
interviewed by.
CrowdStrike? I keep
It's
saying
it's
cloud.
it is CrowdStrike,
Okay. Okay.
and he was interviewed by Savannah Guthrie on Friday, and these interviews tend to be very light interviews from
Yeah.
Savannah Guthrie when they're friendly, and
Yeah.
CrowdStrike is very friendly to the Democrat Party. Actually, I'll give you a
Hmm.
story on that, but this this interview didn't go well. I mean, the CEO was sweating, and of course he's sweating. The whole world has come
Yeah.
down, but the answers to the questions were a little fishy. And one of the questions was, well, you guys are a cybersecurity company, and don't you have like a sandbox that you test these things in before you send it out? And that was
Wow.
a real fishy answer that he put
Dude,
out
this
there.
sounds just like the Inquisition with the Secret Service director.
It,
Doesn't this
it,
sound
it
just
was
like it?
very much like that. It was
Yeah.
very, look, I've used this analogy before, where it was like when you were a kid, and you could smell McDonald's from a mile away. Oh, there's
Yeah.
a McDonald's going this way, right? You knew it was McDonald's. It wasn't Burger King. It's McDonald's. It's got a particular smell to it. It's like this. This has a particular smell to it. It smells a lot like the COVID stuff that we were
Yeah.
fooled by, or by the 9/11 stuff, or
The Secret Service.
even Y2K. Remember that?
Yeah,
Like, remember
sure.
it smelled the same way. It was like, hey, we got something cooking up for you. It's real good. It's like every
Yeah.
time you cook something for me, I get sick.
So, are there any thoughts about how things move forward from here? Is it
Well,
resolved?
let me go back. So apparently, I mean, I got back on Wednesday. I don't know if things are resolved. They said it was going to take many days. This all happened because of an update that's automatic. You know how you have your programs that
Mhm.
automatically update. So that's what happened. The update came on Thursday night, and immediately everything started to go down. Now, it is interesting the timing that everything went down, because it was right after the Republican National Convention.
Oh. Hmm.
And CrowdStrike is very much, it's a BlackRock company, of course. Okay. So, like a lot of companies that are out there, but there's a lot of BlackRock stuff going on right now. Like, for instance, the shooter
Right.
of that was the assassination
Yeah.
attempt was in that BlackRock commercial,
Right.
or the company that shorted the Donald J. Trump Truth Social account that we talked about last week.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
BlackRock company as well.
Oh.
So interesting. So now there are rumors that the CTO, who's a co-founder of CrowdStrike, is a Ukrainian oligarch. Okay, so there's a lot of back and forth. He's not Ukrainian, he's Russian. But at the time that he immigrated from Russia to the United States, Ukraine was a part of Russia. So I don't know. Could be a word play on this. It's still kind of fuzzy, but here's the weird part about it, Barry, is that CrowdStrike has come up before. And it was during the time where you had the WikiLeaks with the Democratic National Convention servers, and how Hillary had that server in her
Yeah.
basement,
Yeah.
and everybody wanted the server, and it was supposed to go to the FBI, but instead it went to CrowdStrike. And CrowdStrike never actually relinquished any of that data.
Oh.
And Comey said, when questioned about it, well, it's a very reputable organization. That's why I say, reputable. I don't know. Reputable organization. And they'll tell us what they find. Instead of the FBI, who's the most professional in investigation, we're going to let CrowdStrike do that. Well, they never really found anything on it, except for it was the Russians that did it. Okay, so it seems like now we know that this was all a big Russia hoax, right?
Yeah.
We debunked all of that, but still, it was Russia that did it. Now fast forward to today, and it's right after the RNC, after President Trump doesn't get assassinated. They have the best RNC they ever have. The most people watched the RNC, and immediately after that, CrowdStrike brings down the whole world. It just seems like, what a weird coincidence.
We got a lot
is.
of
There's a lot of
coincidences.
weird coincidences going on right now. And you know what, Barry? It's like, I don't know the answer. I just don't know the answers. But when you consider that the lost information could contain information about what happened with Benghazi, and how Hillary Clinton was in the middle of this whole arms deception, where she was funneling arms to terrorists to take out Assad in Syria, which of course is illegal. And of course, our ambassador gets killed over the whole thing. And also 2014 in Ukraine, we had a coup happened, so it switched out the government. But lo and behold, the United States was in the middle of it with a CIA operative named Victoria Nuland, who actually picked out who the next leader of Ukraine was going to be, which started the war between Ukraine and Russia that had been going on since 2014. We act like it started in 2021 under Biden, but that had been going on since this whole coup that we were in the middle of, which actually is what caused the whole thing in 2021, because we were trying to get NATO in there, and that would have been an existential threat. All these things are connected. These things are connected to what's happening today. And as we and Barry, this is it. this is a crazy thing. I've been thinking about this a whole lot. We seem to think here in the United States that it's Donald Trump now versus Kamala. It's Republicans versus Democrats. You and I have talked a lot about this. It's not that.
It's not at all.
It's America versus the globalists is really what we're looking at right here.
It truly is.
And when I take a look at what happened this week, where Biden says he's dropping out of the race. We could talk more about that because that was a really crazy thing that happened and how
we'll
it
talk
happened.
about it. Not yet.
But suddenly you got Kamala in there and she gets an infusion of $100 million this week, which is unprecedented. Nobody's ever gotten that.
I think that was refuted. I know that
they're saying it all through the news. It's not a rumor. They're saying it in mainstream media, $100 million. That did happen. And how did she get $100 million in a week? I mean, that's a serious amount of money, and no one's ever gotten that. You'd think she was the most popular candidate that's ever run for president, and yet when she ran for president the last time, she only got 5% of the vote ahead of the first primary, which was the one in Iowa caucus, actually. And she only got 5%.
I literally thought it was 1%.
I'll give you that.
Pretty sure
1%.
Okay.
Okay. So $100 million. Where did that come from?
A DEI pick by Biden, and now they're saying that you can't say DEI, that'll be racist. And yet Biden said he was going to pick a woman of color. That's right. DEI. So anyways,
that is DEI.
But we're getting
not
ahead
just
of it.
A woman. Yeah.
DEI is going to proliferate throughout this show here today. And so let's start with this because you were talking about Microsoft there a minute ago. Microsoft, did you hear this? CNN and Microsoft reduced their DEI departments. This is big, real progressive news. So I looked this up on chat to get, I wasn't trusting my sources as much as I wanted to bring them together. So I asked chat about it. It says the news about CNN and Microsoft reportedly moving away from their diversity, equity, inclusion departments has stirred quite a bit of discussion. Here's a summary of what's happening. CNN recently announced a restructuring that includes significant changes to its DEI efforts. Now, CNN, by the way, let that one sink in. The decision comes as part of a broader effort to streamline operations and refocus resources. Boy, does that sound like a way to soft shoe the fact that it's not working. The specifics of what it means for CNN's future DEI initiatives are still evolving, blah, blah, blah. But it suggests this shift in how the network approaches these issues. Microsoft also made headlines with changes to its DEI department. The company reportedly reduced the size of its team and refocused its approach to diversity and inclusion. This move is part of a larger organizational restructuring aimed at increasing efficiency and aligning with broader business goals. Now, that sounds to me like a very politically correct way to say that this is destroying our company and our profits.
I think that's exactly what it's doing.
We think we need to get some people based on meritocracy in here rather than checking some boxes. So that's I'm not sure if I want to go to the outrageous caller defends pedophiles on a live podcast or if we should dive in.
Let's do the DEI thing a little bit more here. Because this is a very interesting subject.
Oh, it's going to keep coming up. Yeah.
And this whole thing where I saw a video and I guess it was a newscast and there was a black gentleman that was being interviewed and I'm sorry, he was a congressman and he was saying that if you are saying that Kamala Harris is a DEI hire, then you're calling her the N-word. And this is my N-word. And I would imagine that, the way that the society is, white people are probably like, oh my God, I'll never say that, because nobody wants to be known as a person saying the N-word, but it's not the N-word. These, as you said, they bragged about this. Joe Biden said he was going to pick somebody that is a black woman. I saw an interview with Joe Biden with, what's the guy's name? Al Sharpton. And Al Sharpton's like, you know, you're going to hire a black woman. You said that, right? You're doing that, right? I mean, it was almost like he was jamming it down Biden's throat. And Biden was like, yeah, 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 that's what I'm going to do. But here's Kamala Harris right here. Here's a quote from her. There are some forces in our country that are trying to say that it is a bad term to talk about DEI. This is when she was first elected. They're trying to do to DEI what they did with woke. Applause. People, oh, what? Why would you applaud?
I was just wondering the same thing.
And don't you hate in politics? They say like 3 words. And,
oh, I do.
I do. Like, come on, man. Nobody. That's just so fake. Anyway. Yeah. And okay, and then here's the next thing she says after the applaud. And we got to pay attention to that. We got to pay attention to that. Of course. Okay, she's trying to act black, Barry. She's not black, by the way.
That's up there with Biden saying he's going to do gooder.
Like we could keep y'all in chains. Yeah, yeah. They love that. You know, she carries hot sauce in her purse, probably. But we got to pay attention to that. They're trying to suggest that it is somehow wrong to talk about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. That is somehow wrong to talk about the fact that when you look at, for example, the fact that I'm the first woman of color to be vice president of the United States, this interview, and then the vice president says, that piece about diversity is somehow not important. Okay, so bragging about it when she first got in there, right. And now if you say it, you're a terrible bigot and you are saying the N-word. And it is just so the intimidation factor that's going on. Let me pull something else up here because these people are whoops, let me do this. These people are trying to bully the vote out of especially black people. And I just think that this whole thing is it's really sick. I'm trying to pull up this.
The thing that bothers me is once again, they're trying to censor DEI. They always want to censor words and redefine them. That's their whole game. Always has been their game. Remember grooming? Okay, I'm going to segue into that after you do finish your share, but it's the same thing. Now, if you say DEI, you're saying the N-word. Are you kidding me? You guys are the ones that jam DEI down our throats. Oh, dude, I had that share too. Yeah, go ahead, roll that. That one's funny.
This is the intimidation factor, though. So if you're black, you're not black if you don't vote for Kamala.
This is like
and we heard the same thing under Joe Biden. You ain't black if you don't vote for me. And right. We're getting the same thing. And from the top of the bigot tree.
There you go. That's her. She's a one-trick pony. So this is Joy Reid.
That's all she can do.
And she's going to give us her Mean Girls speech on how you're not going to be invited to the lunch table if you don't get in line.
Black person. Yeah. And leave Amber behind. Apparently Amber must be a white girl, but here we go.
You're going to look real crazy being on the other side of that line, particularly as a person of color, but really as anyone who claims to have any connection to the culture. You're going to look real weird and real lonely on that side.
All right. The whole
real weird and real lonely. You know, here's the thing.
Crazy. And crazy.
From my perspective here is I've dealt with this kind of thing all my life where, you know, I don't fit in, you know, I don't speak Ebonics. I'm a conservative, and you know, this whole rejection that if you don't vote a certain way, you're not even black.
Yeah.
And it's so disparaging to try to you rip somebody's culture away from them. They don't deserve to have that culture because they believe a certain way. Really, that is the worst form, I think, of bigotry. And, you know, trying to emasculate your identity in order to bully somebody into acting a certain way, I think is the lowest form of peer pressure. Really,
it's juvenile.
Joy Reid, you took the thing you learned in high school when you were your little clique. By the way, Joy Reid would let you believe that she's a person that came from the streets and that she's got one of the highest paying jobs as a black woman in the United States, but acts like there's no opportunity for black people. This is the thing I'm so upset about, Barry, is that from a black perspective, okay, so the vice president is so-called black. She should be out talking
I think
about
she's
if
Indian.
I can do it.
She became black about 4 years ago.
She became black 4 years ago, correct. And the fact is, she's got a Jamaican father and an Indian mother. I say that she's not black because of the fact that her father's not from this country. All right, he doesn't have the same American experience. I see black people as uniquely American, and with the American experience, which has roots in slavery, she doesn't have that coming from Kamala. That is not what's going on.
She's trying to jump on that horse,
though. As same as the black population here in the United States, and she identified as an East Asian when she got elected to the Senate because that was the key for her.
Whatever's
to get elected.
Beneficial at that time.
That's right. If you ain't East Asian, then you ain't East Asian, I guess. Whatever. It's so crazy how this is all working out.
The way they use identity politics, it's all of this is like really just coming unveiled. I think we got through the real hurtful part. Like, oh my God, you're going to call me a bigot. I better go to a Black Lives Matter rally, which was all a bunch of middle-aged white people for the most part, trying to virtue signal. And I think everybody's through, what's happened for a large part is thanks to independent podcasts for a large part. Millions and millions of people are getting educated through these podcasts. Well, we're getting our vocabulary. We know how to answer these questions when you call us a bigot for this issue or this issue. But the worst, like we talk about in America, the pendulum has to swing so far to the ridiculousness before it swings back. Well, I think we hit the pendulum. I think it's swinging back now. I'm going to play you a clip here now, and it's only like a minute. It is a minute and a half. And it's once again about people trying to use a minority group, jump on board that train, just like Kamala tries to, I'm black now. And you just talked about how, oh no, you're not really part of the black experience. You explained that. And remember when Kevin Spacey accused of pedophilia, went on Twitter and said, okay, it's out, I'm gay. And thank God the whole gay community came up and said, whoa, dude, do not conflate our gay movement with pedophilia, you freaking weirdo. And the same thing has been happening with the gay pride parade. So
that's
now
exactly right. Yes.
All the perverts are out there acting just like disgusting mentally ill people. And if I were black, I would be forming a coalition to stop that. Because I would be so angry about my own personal sexuality. Now, of course, they've been trying to do this with pedophilia. Listen to this radio show. This is on iHeartRadio.
I work with IPC.
Oh, this is someone calling in, and she works with the IPC, and here we go.
If you don't know, that's International Pedophile and Child Emancipation. And our goal is to abolish the stigmatization of people with pedophilic sexual interests and normalizing the potential role in moderating pedophiles' emotional well-being. I know that's a mouthful.
Wait, before we get any further,
what are we saying right now?
Yeah, this sounds disgusting. Are you saying you're a pedophile?
No, I'm not saying that I'm a pedophile in the sense that I've never had sexual relations with a person underage.
But you're saying we should accept
because
pedophiles?
That's illegal. Well, I just don't believe we should be shunning those in our community that have desires to engage in a romantic relationship with someone in a drastically different age group.
So you're saying you support pedophiles?
I'm saying I support love.
Okay.
And just because America views ages like 18 as some sort of imaginary bar or line in the sand for humans to engage in romantic relationships doesn't mean it's right.
So you don't see anything wrong with a 20-year-old dating a 12-year-old?
That's not what I'm saying. But listen, in Nigeria, the age of consent is 11. It's 14 in other countries like Brazil, Colombia. If we're taking if we're taking a month as a country to showcase our pride for other communities of sexual exploration, then I think we should add the letter P, which is just as important as the L, G, B, and T.
Oh my.
It's such
Holy cow, Barry. That was sick.
Very sick. Now, here's the point to what I was talking about, hijacking a movement. And like I said about the gay pride parade, if I were gay and that a perversion and the perverts of that part of society want to jump on the whole gay thing and dare you, oh, you're going to homophobic because I'm out here being really twisted. Same thing is happening here with pedophilia. They want to put that LGBTQXYZP. I want to make sure we got the P in there. Well, first of all, it should have been capped at LGB. Lesbian, gay, bi, covers everything.
Yeah.
It does. And so they're hijacking that movement, throw pedophilia in there again. If I were gay, I think I would be starting a coalition, some kind of an organization to be, and it starts with the, well, let's just do this first step. Let's put a trans person into an elementary school to read you some library stuff and put some pornographic images in there and call you a homophobe if you got a problem with this perversion, twisting those young minds. This is what I mean about the pendulum. You guys went way too far, way too far. And you've been attacking our kids from 8 ways to Sunday, 8 different, 12 different directions. And this is what I mean. This is when the pendulum is swinging back, and you guys better watch out because it's going to swing back hard.
Well, and it's the foot in the door philosophy that you were just talking about. And typically what happens is somebody like you or I will come in and say, hey, you're opening up the door for something like pedophilia. Oh, that's ridiculous. We wouldn't do that. And then the next thing you know, oh, we got MAP people over here. It's not pedophilia. It's called MAP.
They're
they
just
say they changed the name of it.
It's another step.
And they make flowery pictures, right? Exactly. And this is just disgusting and sick. And the way that woman on the line just so flippantly said these things, like it was just so normal for these types of activities to happen. And that's what they want. They want to make it normal. And I agree with you. If I were gay, I would be very angry that they were trying to associate my sexuality with all of these crazy things. And it was something that I was looking at when, you look at Black Lives Matter and how they associate being Black with being queer as well. And they're trying to make those two things that kind of the same thing. And it's like, when did that happen?
Right. I don't like this terminology queer either, because it covers way too much ground. And you're right. They're piggybacking on the gay thing. Oh, if you don't like me and my, whatever perversion, then you're a homophobe.
And that's the whole thing, right? Is queer theory is not necessarily homosexuality.
Right.
It's it can include
anything.
Homosexuality, but it's actually anti-establishment, and anything that's the norm is what they're going against. And so it is a recipe for the destruction of society, really. Yeah. And that's what we're seeing.
Well,
it is the whole thing is sick. I have something about Kamala and some
I was
of the
going
things
back
that she
there
stands. Too. Yeah, here's a person that we have to take a look at her and take a look at her record. And I think that's the important thing to do during this election season is look at records, look at policy. You might not like Donald Trump, you might not like Kamala Harris. And I think, actually, when you think about it, these are probably two of the most hated candidates that have ever run for office at the same time.
Well, no one asked for her.
No one asked for her.
In fact, when we were asked our opinion, it was irrefutable that everybody did not like her. She didn't even make it to Iowa in the first round of the 2000.
She was done in the first round. She was done, and nobody liked her. She ran a campaign that was we're going to see this. It was very, very fixed on racism, on her being a woman, and we're going to see this. It's going to be Donald Trump is a racist. He doesn't like women. And it's going to be all about
this anymore.
And it's going to be all about abortion too, and how Donald Trump outlawed abortion. And that's I mean, this is what you're hearing is that Donald Trump somehow outlawed abortion when actually what happened was he made the decision go to the individual states so that the people could vote on it. And that's really what this whole saving democracy that the Democrats always talk about to get rid of Trump. That's what democracy actually is the people have an opportunity to weigh in on it rather than have an elite bunch of people, 7 or 9 people, make a decision for the whole country. And this whole thing is so insane. But Barry, let me tell you, the one event that I am stuck on is something that Tulsi Gabbard brought up in that 2020 election. And she just took down Kamala Harris
at the knees.
And that was the end. It was like she got taken out. And the big deal was 2 things. One is, to me, the most important, and that was during all those forest fires that we were having in California when I was living there. It was terrifying, by the way. And by the way, California is responsible for starting a lot of those fires.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Not doing controlled burns because they can't think things through. Because that's
right.
You're going to burn down our forest. You must stop. Picket, picket, picket. Okay, what happens? You get a forest fire. Endless forest fires. God.
Not only that, Barry, but PG&E, the electric company, is owned by the state. They haven't upgraded those telephone line or those electric wires in about 100 years, and these transformers keep exploding in the forest that has not been cleaned. And therefore, huge forest fire starts. That's how those people died
you could do the
Paradise,
math.
California. It's crazy. So Kamala Harris was the attorney general for the state of California. And what did she do? She extended the sentence of countless people in order to use those people to fight those fires.
Cheap labor.
I actually have a picture that I want to show you here. This is kind of stunning, actually. This picture of Kamala. And for those that can't see it, this is a picture of her. You kind of got to stand back to see it, but it is made up of the faces of all of the people that she used to fight those fires, Barry.
Wow. So that's one of these like optical illusions. If you squint at it, you can see. Yeah.
You can see that it's her. But if you look closely at the pictures, most of those people in there are black. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So my point is this, Barry, is that if you use people, labor, and you don't compensate them and you force them to do work.
Slavery. Yeah.
It is slavery.
100%.
That is slavery. But see, slavery is one thing, Barry. Like you think about slavery, it's so horrible. They're forcing people to work in the fields and to, do the crops and clean the house and all this kind of stuff. But she used them to fight fires. You know how many people, firefighters, die from fighting fires? And those are professional firefighters. This is just some guy they pulled out of a cell and said, go, here's a bucket of water, go put that out. What are the chances that these guys get killed doing that?
Right.
And just when you think about the fact that they were supposed to be released, they were free, and yet she kept them in jail. Who does something like that? You talk about character, moral character. Oh, and this is what she is made of, and that's not going to change. And so now we want her to be the president, and she's calling herself a black woman, and she's supposed to be the savior to black people. And when you really think about this, what did Barack Obama do for black people besides just be called black? Nothing. Unemployment rate for blacks under Obama was sky high. And then same thing under the Biden administration. Although under the Trump administration, it was in the lowest in history. I mean, you have to look at these things and say, really, are black people going to vote en masse for Kamala Harris because she says that she's black?
That's like the gay thing I just said.
That doesn't happen.
If I were black, I would just be irate, being taken advantage of, being thought of as so dumb that to fall for this stuff over and over again. It's condescending. But I have a gigantic list of horrible things about Kamala Harris, and you could start with her sleeping her way into power And a lot of people are like, what are you talking
Yeah.
about? What happened there? I've heard that a lot. I found somebody call her Heels Up Harris. And which I thought was pretty funny. But
Jeez. That's horrible.
her rise in California politics, quoting Megyn Kelly on this one. Harris actually did sleep her way into and upwards into California politics, and most women and men may learn that and see it for what it is: evidence of an unqualified political aspirant getting ahead. Say that quickly. Getting ahead and based on something other than merit. She slept her way into politics via the relationship she had with then California Assembly Speaker Willie Brown nearly 30 years ago, and when she was 29 years old and he was 60, as I recall. And he was a very powerful figure back then. So other really bad qualifications for Harris. And did you just show that photo? Yeah, there's one. Yeah. She basically, and she has no political agenda other than whatever will get her ahead. Like, she doesn't have any policies that anyone knows about. And look she was the border czar. Number one. That's, if I were Trump, that's about the number one thing I would say. You're the border czar.
Yes.
Look at this. Explain this. Remember when she was asked to, hey, have you been to the border? Do you remember that clip?
God.
I didn't pull that one up.
I didn't either. Yeah.
Everyone knows that.
She says, yeah, well, you haven't been to the border, the reporter says, and she says, yeah, I haven't been to Europe either.
Right. She finally said that. Yeah. She's so bad. She had, nobody seems to be talking about this, but she has had historic levels of staff turnover during her tenure as a VP. Dude, everyone knows this. You quit your boss, not your job. What that means is she has terrible leadership skills. She's always unprepared, and she's going to blame her staff because she is unprepared. That if you want her to be president, and she's already proven that her staff hates her. I've worked with all these different companies my entire life. I learned in my 20s about leadership, and that people, the entire company takes on the attitude of the person at top. And if they lead from fear and intimidation, you have a toxic culture all the way down. If you have a department, it could be a small company or it could be a department within a large company. If they have a large turnover rate, it's because you have somebody in there with very poor leadership skills.
She's exactly
proven
right.
that.
Yeah, she has. And let me comment on both of those things before you move on, because I think those were really big. The leadership skills, you're exactly right. I've in my whole career, I've had bosses that I love to work for, and those are always the ones that inspire a team spirit, and they motivate you, and you feel good about what you're doing. You feel good about the contribution to the team because the leader is actually doing that, and the leader is competent. That is a competent leader. An incompetent leader does not know how to lead people, and so they use a whole nother method to mask their incompetent, and it is fear and intimidation, as you were saying. And fear and intimidation works for a minute, but what it does is it wears down the staff so that they can't do it anymore. So you're constantly having to replace people. The morale is terrible. The moment that person gets there, they feel it. It's like a weight on their shoulders. And when they go home, they can't sleep at night because they feel the pressure of that. A lot of people under those circumstances actually get what's called PTSD. And I think that's what's
true,
happened to a lot of these people that had to flee the Harris organization over the last 4 years. And let me tell you this, if you ever look at video of her when she was in her committees as a senator, she is one of the meanest people that you'll ever run into. She is like a snake lady when she's talking to people. She has no respect for anyone. She's condescending. She looks down her nose at people. She is not a person I would want to live next door to me.
I agree with you. And the other thing is that she, on the positive side, she can read just fine off a teleprompter, whereas her predecessor
she can. Yes.
And why is he still running the country, supposedly?
Well, let me back up, because that's going to be big. But the other thing that you mentioned was that the border czar thing. And we know that Biden gave her the mantle for the border. We know that was her responsibility. And I really thought when that happened, what an impossible job that they just gave to her. This is a failure job. And this is just Biden's way of just kind of pawning off that whole thing and just getting rid of it. Yeah, exactly. And then, God, now if you say that she was the border czar, all of these different organizations are coming out now to say that she was never the border czar. Axios, right, saying the Trump campaign and Republicans have tagged Harris repeatedly with the border czar title, which she never actually had. But look at this. This is good. From Axios, Vice President Harris said Wednesday she plans to visit Mexico and Guatemala as soon as possible. And here it is: Harris appointed by Biden as border czar.
I know, dude. Do this all the time. Exactly the same thing they said about you can't call her a DEI hire. Biden in his Biden said she was a DEI hire.
Yeah. So this comes down to they really believe that everyone besides them is just stupid.
That's the thing. They treat us like we are totally stupid. Here's another thing about Harris, that the endless video. Now, I honestly don't know which one this is, but I just quickly found a word salad video of her. It's 1 minute. And that was just one of the other things that I had to say about her. Like, she can read well off a teleprompter, and that's an improvement over Joe. Okay. But boy, you get her in a one-on-one interview, she'll just take whatever you asked her, the question, and just take it and rearrange the words over and over again. That's her answer.
I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been. You know? What can be unburdened by what has been.
There are those who are unable to see what can be. But there are many more who are able to see what can be unburdened by what has been. Remember Venn diagrams, those 3 circles, right? And then let's just see where they overlap.
You will not be surprised because I have constructed a Venn diagram on this. Remember those 3 circles, how they overlap?
I love Venn diagrams, so I just do. Whenever you're dealing with conflict, pull out a Venn diagram, right? And so, the 3 circles.
Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. So basically, that's wrong.
I am Kamala Harris. My pronouns are she and her. I am a woman sitting at the table wearing a blue suit.
Oh my God. So that's the candidate. And I agree with what Dave Smith said, that he believes, as I believe, this is truly an audition phase still. We got another month before the DNC. I don't think she's 100% a shoe-in for the candidate yet. It's an audition phase to see how the polling will go. And they got all of their, and here's another thing, man. Everybody in the media did an about face on this. And they wanted to put other people in there. And first of all, Joe was fine. Then all of a sudden, Joe is not. And who else can we get? Because we can't put Kamala out there. Oh, now Kamala's she's awesome. And it's just like, how can you keep up this charade? Like, the most staunch leftists, I mean, they will turn on the TV and say, give me my talking points. I need my talking points because I will never betray this side, but I don't know what else to say at this point. Whereas the people that have been maybe a little on the fence they got to be chipping away at these people. They got to be like, man, this is crazy. And you talk about democracy and you're really destroying democracy. Any shred, any viable part of democracy. So I don't know. What are your thoughts?
It's a crazy thing. Well, let's go to the Biden speech that he made on Wednesday. Did you watch that?
I didn't watch it. No.
I
Just
did.
heard about it.
Yeah, I watched it. It was, really kind of weird how that whole thing happened. I mean, this is a historic moment, right? I mean, the last time a president did not run for the next term was President Johnson. He had been decimated by the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
His popularity had gone way down. And of course, he just wasn't going to make it. So he dropped out of the race in March of 68. So you still had some runway to bring somebody else in. Of course, though, the Democrats lost to Nixon in 68. So that was a killer blow for them. And they don't want to repeat that this time. And of course, there's no runway here. And there's no way for Kamala to go out and campaign to get those delegate votes, which all were cast for Biden anyhow. So like you're saying, this whole thing, this whole democratic process has turned into an elitist process that just, hey, we don't care who voted for who. We're going to put our own person in here. And this is what's making me feel like this is a setup, Barry. At least it feels like a setup because, here's Joe Biden saying that he's going to run. He's in it to win it all the way up until Saturday night. And then on Sunday, an ex Twitter comes out saying I'm dropping out, Joe Biden. And then we don't
with
see
a signature that we've never seen before of his.
Right. And then we don't see him for several days.
Yeah.
And then when we do see him, first off, when I saw him, he looked funny. His eyes, especially, I thought, what do they got this guy on right here? And he just something didn't seem right as soon as the camera came on. And then you listen to the speech, and I was looking for, okay, here's why I made this decision at the last minute, and here and then here's who I'm endorsing, and here's why it's important to endorse her now. And we didn't hear that. We heard that the reason was because it was time to pass the torch to a younger generation. But that doesn't make any sense. So that was the only explanation we got. Why does that make sense when you only have a couple of months before the election? Why would it be time right now? What happened between Saturday and Sunday for it to be time? And where were you the last few days?
Right. It's pretty well documented that Nancy Pelosi told him he's coming out, either take the easy way or the hard way. And where was he? I'm still not. There's a lot of funny business going on. For one.
Well, it's interesting because Nancy Pelosi has no power to pull Joe Biden out. She's
Pelosi
not a part
and
of the
Obama
cabinet.
somehow have all the power. And
I agree,
but
know that seems kind of crazy though
much
that
fishy
it happened
stuff.
the way that it did. And so here's my point is that, okay, so it's fishy why he dropped out. He said before this, leading up to this, we heard the interview right after the debacle debate that if God Almighty himself had to come down to get Joe Biden out of there. Then we heard a couple of days before he dropped out that if the doctors told him that there was some type of a physical reason for him to drop out, that he would drop out.
It's like a setup. They set that up.
And okay, when he got,
don't you think?
He's got, yes. Well, first he gets COVID. When he got COVID, I think I might have told you, I think he's dropping out because he gets COVID again. That seems right after the assassination attempt.
But he's got like 30 jabs in him. He should be impervious to COVID, right?
That's what he told us. That
I mean, or does that not work?
Going to get sick.
Right.
It's
one or the other. I would have picked something other than COVID.
But so he's passing the torch to the new generation. That's not a reason that he had given us before, God Almighty or health thing. Now, here's
God
the thing.
Almighty. That'd be Nancy Pelosi. Or
that's funny. Or maybe it was Barack Obama. I don't know.
It was.
But here's the thing: is that now he's saying he's going to be the president until the 20th of January, but he said, It seems like it was health reasons for him to drop out. And so should he be the president all the way until the end of the year?
Same people are running this country now that have been running it for the last 3.5 years.
I agree with you.
Cat is out of the bag.
And that's why I think that we haven't heard the end of Joe Biden staying until the end or not. This is going to be interesting how this plays off. So here's the second thing he didn't do was he didn't tell us why Kamala Harris. Why should she be the one? Just because she's the vice president doesn't mean that she should be the one to run for president in the next election. That's not how it works. It only works that way if he dies. Then she becomes the president, but not, the vice president doesn't automatically get the chair if the president, that's the incumbent president, drops out. That is not how it works. So he had to make a case for why Kamala. But he didn't. There was nothing there. There was no reasons. I wonder if the Democrats feel ripped off by this.
Geez, how
I would.
I mean, as a registered Democrat, yes, but the Democratic Party, God only knows what they're. I'm just going to go even more conspiratorial than you usually do. There's a lot of funny business going on. I'm not convinced this is Joe Biden.
Anywhere in the world.
Hey, do you remember cheap fakes from a few weeks ago?
Yes.
Remember when they need a new word to throw out there on MSNBC and CNN and C-SPAN, and it's cheap fakes. So he wasn't in a mental decline. Those are cheap fakes. Now,
yes,
it's kind of like COVID. Like, does your vaccine work or doesn't it? You got COVID again? Well, are there cheap fakes or are there not? Are you saying that you have the technology, that we all have the technology to put you out? Dude, there are Joe Rogan commercials on YouTube all the time that Rogan's like, that's not me. I never said that. And you're watching him and all that. I'm not convinced.
I am so glad you're saying
a lot
this.
of color here.
Coalition of Proud Nations.
He's got a weird chin. He's got a lot of, there's definitely filters going on. If it is him, I'm not convinced it is him.
Taking over Ukraine.
And look at his eyes. His eyes look different to me.
And then, do you remember this?
Julie, if I'm
not sure
have COVID, I'd be sitting there with.
This is when he called into that campaign event with Kamala Harris. And dude, it's really easy if you got enough tape to, you know what? There's a big thing going on with people that are blackmailing parents. If they have enough audio of their child's voice, they can make an audio and a convincing audio saying, "Hey, mom, I'm abducted. You got to pay this fine. Help me. It sounds completely authentic. And because of the way a lot of people are speculating that this audio right here is not really Joe Biden, he's not stuttering as much, he's not slurring as much or anything for the first time ever.
Go ahead and play a little bit of it.
I'm so proud of what you've all done. And but this COVID has keeping me out of people's hair for the next 3 or 4 days. But I'm going to be on the road. And I'm not going anywhere. It's kept me away a little bit, but I want people to remember that what we have done has been incredible, and we get so much more we're going to get done. And so I want to say hello to Kamala. If she can hear me, I know she's going to be speaking shortly. And I want to say to the team, embrace her. She's the best. I want to call today to thank everybody in this effort. I know yesterday.
He seems pretty competent right there, more competent than he sounded ever. And
but not so much that you suspect
you can't all of a sudden have great. If you're gonna pull it off, you're gonna have to give him his so-called stutter.
Yes.
And that's what they've done. Now, first off, I want to just say, Barry, congratulations, you made it over to my side here. I actually have had the same suspicions, but I didn't dare say that to you because I thought you would be like, dude, you're way over the top on this. But
I understand.
Okay, good, because
I understand.
Here's what I saw
but I know too much about AI, and I did try to explain it. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I know. I watched the fake commercials with Rogan on it. I know that people are using the deep fake audio to blackmail people. I know too much about it, and this government has the best of it.
And they have these masks now. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
They've got these
you.
amazing masks. No, that's okay. What I was going to say was I saw Joe Biden leaving from that speech, and he was out on the veranda with Jill Biden. And the interesting thing about the picture
Dr.
was that Jill Biden only came up to about here.
I heard about this too. Yeah.
And then I was looking at this and going, man, actually Anne Marie was showing me this, and we're like, that's not right. And we started looking at pictures of them together, and she comes up to about here on him. She was wearing high heels, and he looked particularly fit as he walked out. Not that slouch that he normally has. He was like,
I heard he had
like
young hands.
And you saw his hands as he was talking. He used his hands a lot, it was so interesting. Another interesting thing was his watch. This was supposed to be a live broadcast, yet his watch showed 2 hours earlier, 2 hours and like 20 minutes earlier. It wasn't like a time zone
Perceptive.
thing.
Wow.
So not only that, you also saw in the background over his left ear, you could see the teleprompter. I could see the teleprompter moving along every time that he spoke. Never seen that before from an Oval Office presentation whatsoever. And I thought, if this was such a historic moment, wouldn't the production people like take control of all of that kind of stuff? It just like you're saying, the whole thing seemed really, really odd. So let me ask you this. Do you think Joe Biden is even alive still?
I wonder, dude, I've been wondering that for 2 weeks, or a week at least. It's going by so quickly. I honestly been wondering that. I have no idea. There's so much weird stuff going on. Here's one off the top of my head. So much news, everything's buried, you know? And Patrick Bet-David, a few days ago, they were doing a section on the shooter, with the Trump assassination. And their one guest host, I forget his name, but he's an ex-military guy, I think Marine. He was a sharpshooter, like he's won national contests. He knows everything about guns. And they went through his background. And then, so they played audio of the shootings. And he's like, there's 3 different guns there. And and they can only speculate on which one actually hit the president in the ear, but it literally out of those 8 shots, they did the one. It was like a boom, something like that. But then it was cut to the next second or two, and it was, and he explained that. And then there was one that just sounded like a single shot of a rifle.
That sounded like the kill shot.
Yeah, I know, man. I'm just saying that everything's so weird right now. I don't know what to believe or make of anything. I throw it out because I'm thinking about it. And I think when history looks back on this time, I think it's going to be a lot of like the JFK period.
It feels like it.
Yeah. But I also think that a lot of stuff's going to come to the surface.
Well, and I think also that, to your point, that as a journalist, you got to be careful right now with all of this information that's flying around, because, you know, there's a lot of information that I can see tickles my ears, right? Where I'm just like,
of course.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
It's like UFOs,
run with it. Yeah, exactly. But I think, you know, we have to practice the discipline of at least being skeptical of everything that we're seeing right now, whether it lines up with your ideology or not.
Oh, that's a good point.
Because everything can be manipulated now. Just like we're talking about, is that really Joe Biden? I mean, we
told us there are cheap fakes out there. I'll just say it again. That they told us that there's a cheap fakes.
Exactly. And we're at that level now. That is the level that we're at. They told us that, right? And they told us that it's a cheap fake that Joe Biden is declining mentally. Really? Huh, that's interesting, because so why did he drop out at the last minute? And that goes to this other point, is how can anybody trust the media one iota anymore when they have known all along about this declining?
They pretty much admitted it.
Right. And here's the vice president. You're going to elect a vice president that's known and lied about this for years
There you
now?
go.
Really?
Good point. Good point.
That's
no
really
one's actually said that.
And they talk about Trump and he's morally bankrupt and he's a tyrant. I had a conversation with a friend of mine recently who told me that we were saying, look, there's only two choices, okay? Neither one of them are perfect. Probably way less than perfect than anybody wants.
Agreed.
But it's two choices now, and you can have all this ideology of who the perfect person is, but you only have two choices.
That's
so
not RFK's out there as an independent.
True. I don't know. And you're right. The viability of him coming in right now, I don't think
because of the process.
High, you never know.
But
you're
dude,
right about that too.
We seriously,
the process has to change.
The process has to change. We need two more parties for sure.
I agree.
To put the heat.
There's so many things that have to change. But what we have now is not going to change beforehand. And so what he told me was, well, I can't vote for Trump because he's a tyrant.
Yeah.
And I said, really, he's a tyrant. And I said, can you tell me what he's done that's tyrannical?
Right.
And he said, well, it's all the things that he's saying. Listen to what he's saying. And I said, okay, I get what you're. A lot of people have said that, but is saying things that are tyrannical actually tyrannical? And he says, well, doesn't the talk lead to tyranny? And I said, well, let's look at this another way. I said, Trump was the president for 4 years. So we actually have a case study that we can look at to see, was he tyrannical? So tell me one thing that Trump did that was tyrannical. And I say tyrannical can be defined as something outside of his constitutional authority, because the Constitution is set up to protect us from tyranny. So if you say he's gone outside of the bounds of the Constitution, then that would be tyranny to me. So tell me the thing. And there was like the nothing. He got nothing. Yeah. And I said, look, I got now. Can you tell me anything from the current administration that they have done that's anti-constitutional? I got 10 things off the top of my head.
Same.
But can you tell me? And that's the whole thing. And I started going down this whole list. Well, look at what's happening at the border. They're supposed to actually protect the borders,
that's
but they've decided not to protect the borders.
Is keep our borders safe. Number one.
That's the number one job. Exactly. And so that is tyrannical right there. Yeah. And when you think about Kamala Harris being the border czar, and the fact that it looks like these illegal immigrants might be able to vote.
Right.
Mostly because of the Democrat push to make that happen. And then she's now the one that's going to run for president. Was this the plan from the beginning? That's a good question.
I don't think so.
There.
It's a good question,
but
I think that they just
could it have been a plan.
They had all this slime in their hands and they kept trying to contain it, and it fell, and they dropped it and went, oh no. I don't think they're that smart.
Maybe but here's the thing, Barry, is that when the $100 million showed up, that means that the globalists were infusing that money, which means that they may have had this plan all along. I don't know.
Well, no, I think it's kind of like BlackRock, Vanguard, and those guys kind of like, whoa, man, this came off the rails. Everybody now knows Joe can't do it. What are you going to do? Because we're pulling our money. And they say, oh, wait, just give us a couple days. Oh, could be. Totally, dude. Totally.
Well, and we don't know.
They could flip the script in a day, and they did.
Well, it seems like they were pretty lined up and organized for this, and I just feel like
just take their marching
possibility that the people at the top.
That's why we're an oligarchy.
Fact that they put Kamala Harris in there, the one who was voted the most liberal of all the senators. They told Joe Biden, this is the person you're going to pick. And it worked because nobody tried to impeach Joe Biden, because they knew if they did, the most radical liberal, that really leftist of all, would become the president. Now they've coronated her as the next president. It kind of seems like that could have been the plan all along. We don't know that, but I hear your point. But I'm just saying, consider it could have been that way, especially as we're looking at the fact that she was coronated queen, which is my second one of that seems to spit on the spirit of the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
And let's go to student loans. You're just going to give money to people,
taxpayer, our money,
to buy votes. And how unfair is that? There's no constitutional authority in the Second Amendment to the purse by the president. That's anti-constitutional, and the Supreme Court told him that it was anti-constitutional. They voted on that, and he did it anyway. That's called tyranny right there. You take a look at censorship under Twitter and other media outlets. Again, a violation of the First Amendment. That's gone. How about waging proxy wars without a declaration of war? Another example, and the list goes on. Allowing a Chinese invasion with that balloon that came over, and they stole all of our secret data as they flew over our military bases. The vaccine mandates, which was not constitutional. The Supreme Court came and told them that as well. And yet so many people got vaccinated under the threat, and so many people like myself got fired because of the vaccine.
I'm not sure who's got it worse, Merle.
Mandate. And the list just keeps going on and on. But I tell you,
I'm sorry, your connection's really bad. But I was going to say, I don't know who's got it worse. All the hell that you went through for 2 years when you got fired, the COVID stuff, or me, I got the stuff in my veins.
You know what? It's a terrifying thing. What is
Lisa and I talk about that, man.
Yeah, well, this is something that everybody needs to think about. My kids took the vaccination as well, and they were under duress to take it because of their grandfather, and they didn't want to get them sick. So they tried to hurt us with our love is what happened. People took the vaccination because they didn't want other people to get sick. It was a selfless act. And now look what they've done. I'm running out of time here too, Barry. I've got a hard stop in a couple of minutes, so probably need to wrap it up.
Okay, let me run something by you, and you tell me who's at fault here. And this is about a 30-second video, and we're probably going to have to look at it a few times. Okay, can you see it?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'm going to describe.
Oh my God!
I'm going to describe it for people that are listening. This is like rush hour traffic, maybe LA. I'm not sure, but there's a lot of lanes, and it looks like, is that a motorcycle lane, Merle?
Looks like LA. Yeah.
Is that a motorcycle lane?
Yeah. No, it's a high occupancy lane. Oh yeah, in between. Yes.
Okay, so that is a motor. So then that car is at. So this car pulls. It's in the heavy traffic, and I don't know what that car was thinking he was going to do, but he pulled out into the motorcycle lane as this motorcycle flying down the road hits the car that pulls out in front of him, and this guy goes flying for 100 yards. Not 100 yards, 100 feet.
Yeah.
The fact that he's on his hands and knees right there is astounding. So tell me your take on what happened here, Merle. Who's at fault?
The car that pulled out is at fault right there, 100%. That is a double white line right there, which means that you cannot cross that line.
Okay.
That's the law. That guy is at fault, but it almost doesn't matter for the guy in the motorcycle.
The crash.
That's brutal. And this is the problem with these lanes like this, and these motorcycles are traveling 70 miles per hour down these lanes.
So dangerous.
And next to stop traffic like this. And that happens in California. It's set up like that totally. And it's set up for things like this to happen.
Dude, it needs a curb or something.
Yeah, so that very dangerous.
Okay. All right. We're going to have to wrap up. I wanted to tell you one fun fact. So I still am watching The Man in the High Castle. I am on season 4. It's, oh my God, gives me a lot of bad dreams. So I try to watch something light before I actually go to bed, before I go to sleep. And I'm like, so I'm going on Amazon Prime, like trying to find what. You know what I found? I've been binging? Season 3 of Sanford and Son. I'm liking it, man. It is. It is, dude. It holds up. The writing is really good. They always have a simple, stupid premise for their half-hour show, but the jokes along the way are really clever. Yeah. All right. With that, hey guys, go to Over 50 Starting Over. Sign up there, over50startingover.com. Sign up for our email list. We'll get all this to you as it happens. You'll be the first to get it. Go to YouTube, Over 50 Starting Over. Leave a comment, like, share, please. And most importantly, go to applepodcast.com, leave us a 5-star review. We really appreciate it. We'll hit more people, and we're on Spotify with audio and video. With that, Merle, have a great weekend, and I can't wait to talk to you again.
Same here.